You wake up, you check your phone, you scroll through other people's lives, you answer emails that don't matter, you attend meetings about meetings, you worry about things that won't matter in a week, you go to bed, you repeat, and then one day, you wake up and realize you're old. You realize you're dying. You realize you spent your entire life preparing to live instead of actually living. Seneca saw this tragedy playing out 2,000 years ago, and nothing has changed. We still waste our lives as carelessly as if we had an infinite supply. But here's the brutal truth he wants you to face. You don't. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Let that sink in. Life isn't short. You're making it short. Every hour you spend scrolling is an hour you've murdered. Every day you spend in meaningless pursuits is a day you've thrown into the fire. Every year you postpone, what matters is a year you've stolen from yourself. And unlike money, unlike possessions, unlike anything else you might lose, time never comes back. Ever. Seneca wasn't just another philosopher pontificating from an ivory tower. This was a man who served as advisor to emperors, who built vast wealth, who faced exile, who ultimately faced death with the same clarity he brought to life. He knew what he was talking about because he lived it. He watched the richest, most powerful people in Rome waste their lives on trivialities, and he saw the same pattern we see today. Everyone acting like they'll live forever while living like they'll die tomorrow, but in all the wrong ways. Here's what Seneca understood that most of us refuse to face. You're already dying. From the moment you were born, you've been dying. Every breath brings you closer to your last. Every sunrise could be your final one. This isn't morbid, it's liberating. Because once you truly understand this, once you feel it in your bones, everything changes. The trivial falls away. The essential becomes clear. The fog of daily nonsense lifts, and you see your life for what it really is. A brief flash of consciousness between two eternities of non-existence. But look at how you spend this precious flash. You give your time to people who don't deserve it. You sell your hours for money you don't need to buy things that don't matter. You postpone joy for retirement, love for convenience, meaning for security. You act as if you have thousands of years to get around to living, but Seneca asks, what if you don't? What if this is it? What if the time you're wasting right now is all the time you have? Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, Seneca wrote. But most of us never begin because we never end. We never end the meaningless relationships. We never end the soul-crushing jobs. We never end the habits that steal our days. We just drift, carried along by the current of routine, of expectation, of fear. And we call this living. Let me paint you a picture of how most people spend their lives, according to Seneca. They spend their youth preparing for life, studying things they'll never use, following paths chosen by others. They spend their middle years accumulating money, possessions, status, always believing that more will finally be enough. They spend their final years regretting all the chances not taken, all the words not spoken, all the life not lived, and then they die, having never really lived at all. The tragedy isn't death. The tragedy is reaching death and realizing you never lived. The tragedy is lying on your deathbed and understanding, finally, devastatingly, that you spent your entire existence preparing, planning, postponing. You saved your best wine for a special occasion that never came. You saved your love for the perfect person who never arrived. You saved your dreams for when you had more time, more money, more courage. And now time's up, and all you have is a collection of unused possibilities. Think about how you spent yesterday. Can you even remember? Most likely it's a blur of routine activities, forgotten conversations, mindless consumption. Now multiply that by thousands. That's your life. A blur, a fog, a sleepwalk. Seneca would grab you by the shoulders and shake you. Wake up! You're sleeping through your own existence. You're missing your own life. Life is long enough, Seneca insists, if you know how to use it. But how do we use it? First, by recognizing what wastes it. Seneca identified the thieves of time, and they're as active today as they were in ancient Rome. Worry steals your present by fixating on the future. Regret steals your present by fixating on the past. Distraction steals your present by scattering your attention across 1,000 meaningless things. Procrastination steals your present by convincing you there's always tomorrow. But let's get specific about these thieves, because they're clever. They don't announce themselves. They disguise themselves as productivity, as responsibility, as normal life. That job you hate but won't leave because of security, that's a thief wearing the mask of prudence. That relationship that drains you but you maintain out of obligation, that's a thief wearing the mask of loyalty. That endless consumption of news, social media, entertainment, that's a thief wearing the mask of staying informed. Seneca saw through all these disguises. He understood that we cooperate with the thieves. We hand over our time willingly, then complain about not having enough. We're like people who give away their money, then wonder why they're poor. But at least with money, you might get it back. Time? Never. Once it's gone forever. And yet, we treat it as if it's worthless. Nothing, Lucilius, is ours, except time, Seneca wrote to his friend. Everything else, wealth, health, relationships, can be taken from you. But time is yours until you give it away. And most of us, we're philanthropists with our time, giving it to anyone who asks, anything that demands it, any distraction that catches our eye. We guard our money carefully, but spill our time carelessly. We lock our doors, but leave our calendars open to invasion. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, imagining loss before it happens. Not to become depressed, but to appreciate what you have while you have it. Imagine you've lost your health. How precious does your body feel right now? Imagine you've lost your loved ones. How much do you want to call them right now? Imagine this is your last day. How differently would you spend it? But let's take this deeper. Imagine you're on your deathbed right now. Imagine you're looking back at your life from that final moment. What do you see? What do you regret? What do you wish you'd done differently? Now, here's the magic. You're not actually on your deathbed. You still have time, but only if you treat that visualization as reality. Only if you let it change you. Only if you start living as if you actually believe your time is limited. This isn't pessimism. This is realism. This is clarity. This is the antidote to taking life for granted, because that's what shortens life more than anything. Taking it for granted. Assuming there's always more time. Living in the illusion of permanence when everything is temporary. Seneca practiced what he preached. Despite his wealth, he would regularly live in poverty for days at a time, to remind himself that luxury wasn't necessary. Despite his power, he would contemplate exile and death, to remind himself that status was fleeting. He prepared for loss not by avoiding attachment, but by appreciating it fully while it lasted. This is the Stoic way. Not indifference, but perspective. The part of life we really live is small, Seneca observed. Think about that. How much of your life are you actually present for? How much are you fully experiencing versus just getting through? How many of your days could you actually remember if pressed? They blur together because they're not really lived. They're just endured. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What percentage of your life would you say you're actually conscious for? Not just awake, but truly conscious, truly present, truly alive? 10%? 5%? Less? The rest is autopilot, routine, distraction, escape. You're physically present, but mentally absent. Your body is here, but your mind is elsewhere. In the past, in the future, in fantasy, in worry, anywhere but here, anywhere but now. And this is how life becomes short, not through lack of years, but through lack of presence. You could live to 100 and only really live for a few scattered moments. Or you could die at 30, having squeezed every drop of existence from your days. The quantity of time is not in your control. The quality is entirely up to you. Seneca wrote extensively about the diseases of the soul that shorten life. Greed makes life short because no amount is ever enough. You're always chasing more instead of enjoying what you have. Ambition makes life short because you're always focused on the next achievement instead of the current moment. Fear makes life short because you're paralyzed by what might happen instead of engaging with what is happening. Anger makes life short because you're burning your present on the altar of past grievances. But the greatest disease, according to Seneca, is distraction. We live in an age of infinite distraction, and it's killing us slowly. Every notification is a tiny death. Every mindless scroll is a miniature suicide. We're so busy consuming content that we forget to create meaning. We're so busy watching other people's lives that we forget to live our own. Life is divided into 3 periods, Seneca explained. That which was, that which is, and that which will be. Of these, the present is short, the future is uncertain, the past is certain. But look at how we allocate our attention. We spend most of our time in the past, regret, nostalgia, resentment, or the future, worry, planning, fantasy. The present, the only time that actually exists, gets the leftovers. Here's the practical wisdom Seneca offers. First, reclaim your time. Say no to the unnecessary. Cut out the time wasters, the energy vampires, the obligations that serve no one. Your time is your life. When you give it away carelessly, you're giving away pieces of your existence. But saying no is only half the battle. You must also say yes. Yes to what matters. Yes to what calls to your soul. Yes to what makes you come alive. Most people's lives are cluttered with no's disguised as yeses. No to their dreams disguised as yes to security. No to their truth disguised as yes to conformity. No to their life disguised as yes to mere existence. Second, focus on what's essential. What really matters. Not what society says matters, not what your ego says matters, but what your soul knows matters. For most of us, it's simple. Meaningful work, genuine relationships, personal growth, contribution to something larger than ourselves. Everything else is noise. But here's where it gets challenging. The essential is often the difficult. It's easier to check email than to create art. It's easier to scroll social media than to have a deep conversation. It's easier to stay busy than to confront what really matters. The trivial is comfortable. The essential is terrifying. That's why most people choose a long life of triviality over a short life of meaning. Third, act now, not tomorrow, not when you're ready, not when conditions are perfect. Now. That conversation you've been postponing, have it. That dream you've been deferring, start it. That change you've been considering, make it. Tomorrow is a promissory note that may never be cashed. Today is cash in hand. Seneca was particularly harsh on procrastination. He saw it as a form of self-murder, killing your potential futures one by one. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," you're betting that tomorrow will come. But even if it does, you've still lost today. And today was the only time you ever really had. Fourth, embrace difficulty. Seneca didn't advocate for an easy life, but for a meaningful one. He understood that growth comes from challenge, that character comes from adversity, that a life without struggle is a life without strength. Don't seek comfort, seek growth. Don't avoid pain, transform it into wisdom. Every new thing excites terror, Seneca wrote. But he also knew that on the other side of terror lies transformation. The things that scare you most are often the things you most need to do. The challenges you avoid are the ones that would grow you most. The difficulties you resist are the ones that would define you best. Fifth, prepare for death. Not by becoming morose, but by becoming grateful. The Stoics saw death as the final exam of philosophy. How you face death reveals how you've lived. But more importantly, knowing you'll face death changes how you live. It strips away the trivial and reveals the essential. But Preparing for death doesn't mean waiting for it. It means living so fully that death, when it comes, finds nothing left undone, nothing left unsaid, nothing left unlived. It means treating each day as both your first and your last. Your first in terms of wonder and possibility, your last in terms of urgency and appreciation. Seneca wrote, "Every night when I go to sleep, I die. And the next morning when I wake up, I am reborn." This is the Stoic practice, daily death and rebirth. Letting go of who you were to become who you are. Releasing yesterday's failures and tomorrow's anxieties to fully inhabit today's possibilities. But here's what's tragic. Most people will read this, nod in agreement, feel momentarily inspired, and then return to exactly the same life they were living. They'll go back to scrolling, to postponing, to wasting the very time they just acknowledged as precious. Why? Because change is hard, because habits are strong, because the familiar feels safe even when it's killing us slowly. Let me be brutally honest with you, as Seneca would be. You probably won't change. Statistically speaking, you'll finish reading this, feel a momentary pang of recognition, maybe even share it with someone, and then go right back to your comfortable prison. You'll continue to trade your hours for things that don't matter. You'll continue to postpone what's important for what's urgent. You'll continue to live as if you have forever when you might not have tomorrow. Seneca would say, "So what if it's hard? So what if it's uncomfortable? Comfort is slow death. The comfortable life is the wasted life. The easy path leads nowhere worth going. You have a choice. The discomfort of growth or the discomfort of regret. The pain of discipline or the pain of disappointment. The difficulty of living fully or the tragedy of dying empty." Life is like a play, Seneca wrote. It's not the length, but the excellence of the acting that matters. Your life might be shorter than you hope. It will definitely be shorter than you think, but its quality is entirely up to you. You can sleepwalk through 70 years or be fully alive for 30. You can exist for a century or live for a decade. The length is not in your control, the depth is. Think about the absurdity of how we live. We insure our cars, but not our time. We plan our vacations, but not our lives. We save for retirement, but spend our youth. We fear losing our jobs, but not losing our purpose. We're careful with our money, but careless with our moments. We're terrified of dying, but terrified of living. We want long lives, but fill them with short-term thinking. So, here's the question Seneca would ask you. If you knew you had 1 year to live, what would you change? Now, more importantly, why aren't you changing it now? What are you waiting for? A diagnosis? A tragedy? A wake-up call? This is your wake-up call. These words, this moment, this breath. This is life trying to shake you awake. The Stoics believed in something called the view from above, imagining yourself from a cosmic perspective. From up there, your worries about status, about money, about what others think, all become laughably small. From up there, only one thing matters. Are you living or are you just not dying? Are you spending your time or investing it? Are you awake or asleep? Seneca's message is simple, but not easy. Life is not short. You're making it short by how you're living it. Every day you waste is a day stolen from your actual life. Every moment you spend on the meaningless is a moment you can't spend on the meaningful. Every time you say someday, you're saying never. But here's the hope, it's not too late. As long as you're breathing, as long as you're reading this, as long as consciousness flickers in your mind, you have time. Not much, never as much as you think, but enough. Enough to change, enough to live, enough to matter. The question is, will you? Will you close this and go back to your small life, your safe life, your wasted life? Or will you finally wake up? Will you finally stop preparing to live and start actually living? Will you finally understand that life is not short? You're just living it wrong? Seneca is watching, death is waiting, time is passing, and you, You're choosing. Right now, in this moment, you're choosing. The trivial or the essential, the comfortable or the meaningful, the wasted life or the lived life. Choose wisely. You have less time than you think, but more than enough if you start now. What are you waiting for?